We moved to Kansas City from Los Angeles, and here are 5 things that we do really miss about Los Angeles after living here in Kansas City after 4 years. The first thing has to be the nature.
Hi, puppy!
I grew up going to the beach all the time, and I had a super good friend who, when I was 23 or 24, their family bought a beach house, a beautiful beach house right on Seal Beach, California, right on the sand. You could watch the waves roll in, you could spend your time on the beach, and we would go there every single weekend when I was growing up, especially when I was single, before I had kids, before I was married, when I had no responsibilities, and I do miss the beach. Even after I married Emily, and even after we had our kid, we would still frequent going to the beach all the time. One of our favorite things to do as a family was to go tide pooling. I know tide pooling isn't a real word, but what we would do is we would go down to Laguna Beach, we'd go down to Malibu, we'd go out to these different beautiful beaches, and we would go on the rocks here. And if you're not from California, or if you don't live near a beach, you may be confused. Why would you go out on the rocks? Well, the way the tide would come in over the rocks and the way the rocks were formed, they would create pools that were called tide pools. That basically it was each a little ecosystem in and of itself. So you could see fish in there, you could see crabs in there, you could see sea anemones, octopus. Lobsters would be frequently in there, fish, so it would be a ton of things that you could see in there, and it was really fascinating to go to all the time. Because I had a pretty flexible schedule when I was working in California, and Emily only worked 3 days a week, there would be at least once a week where we would go camping. Our favorite place to camp was Crystal Cove State Park in California, and I remember waking up to the sound of the beach, going to bed, hearing the waves pound the sand. That was super relaxing. And moving here to California, we don't have anything like that. The best that we have here are the lakes, are the rivers, are the streams that you can go. Recently I took my son fishing. He caught his first fish. The lake there was brown. It was pretty, but I wouldn't say it's stunning. Hold it up. Like the California beaches or anything like that. I mean, in reality, there's nothing that's gonna compare to the Pacific Ocean out here. We would also love going to Big Sur. That's my favorite place. Probably if I could live anywhere, I would live in Big Sur. But there really is nothing comparable to that type of beauty here in Kansas City, on the Missouri or on the Kansas side. Now, if you go down 3 hours south, you can hit the Lake of the Ozarks. If you go about 30 minutes north of us, you can hit Smithville Lake. And those are lakes. They're not really huge bodies of water, at least compared to the Pacific Ocean. Now, when we moved here, we did love the seasons. And we loved how the leaves change. I mean, it's late September, it's mid-September now, and the leaves are about to change, and we love that season. However, it's just not the same when you compare it to the grandeur, the beauty, the majesty, the splendor of the Pacific Ocean. Growing up too, I lived in a place in Southern California, in Los Angeles, where, especially during around Christmas time, I could surf in the morning, and then I could go snowboard in the evening and the same day. One of the rare places to do that. So if you're considering moving here from California, especially from Los Angeles or other parts of California, you're just going to need to know that while you trade and you get a lot for your money moving here to Kansas City, there are going to be things that I would expect that you would miss if you're coming from a very scenic place like a Florida or a California or even an Oregon or any of those places. I think that one of the things that you're going to have to want to count the cost is that you're not going to have a lot of natural beauty besides just the trees and the lakes and the ponds here. If you're considering moving to Kansas City from anywhere in the country, please give us a call. 816-4MOVE-KC, 816-4MOVE-KC. Like I've said in my other videos, I've helped a ton of people move here from all over the country. Right now, we have people moving here from Utah. We have people moving here from New York. We have people moving here from Colorado. We have people moving here from Florida. I just got a call from somebody from South Carolina. And so all of these states are coming here to Kansas City because it's a great place to live. Now, this video is hopefully helping you sort out if you want to move to Kansas City or not. But if you've decided, or if you just want to have a conversation about Kansas City, 816-4MOVE-KC is the easiest way to reach me. I promise I will get back to you by the end of the day. You can also email me at my email down below. And if you speak Spanish and you want an agent that speaks Spanish, go ahead and give us a call. I can connect you with somebody who can speak Spanish, who can help you move here to Kansas City. Now, going along with the natural beauty is the weather. Everybody knows that Los Angeles has perfect weather. It is hard to beat. There are no seasons, basically. I play a lot of golf, and I used to be able to golf year round. It didn't matter if it was February, it didn't matter if it was January. I might have to wear a light jacket or something like that, but I would be able to play golf all year round without worrying about there being snow on the ground, without worrying about it being super frigid cold. In the winters, it wouldn't get much lower than 40 degrees, which was considered frigid for us. And here it gets way lower than 40 degrees. In fact, the coldest that it got last year in 2022 was minus 16, at least what I saw on my phone. It might have gotten colder than that. Who knows? With the wind chill, I wouldn't be surprised if it got colder than that. The summers in California, they do get very hot, over 100, but there's virtually no humidity. It's very dry heat. Here, the summers can get over 100. There was just a few brutal weeks at the end of August, end of August, that got over 100. And with it getting over 100 here, with the humidity, it can be absolutely brutal. Now, you're going to want to stay inside during those weeks if you decide to come live in Kansas City. Obviously, there's plenty of AC. But with the heat, one of the things in California, I knew at least 3 people who had pools that would allow us to use their pools. Hey, come over, go ahead. You can go ahead and jump in the back, hop in the pool, no problem. Here, I can't think of a single person I know that has a pool. Now, I've shown houses with pools. I've seen a lot of people who have pools, but personally, I don't know anybody who has a pool. And the reason I think I don't is because pools are a lot less popular here because you cannot use them year round. Right about now, or maybe in a few months, you're gonna have to winterize them. You're gonna have to make sure that they have a pool cover. So you definitely have to shut down your pool for a few months here. And people don't want to deal with the hassle of that. You cannot use it year round. People don't want to deal with the extra cost of having a pool, especially if it's something that you can't utilize all the time. And in California, you can utilize a pool all the time. So when it gets really hot here, it is harder to find a pool. Now we have plenty of public pools. We've taken our kid to the Prairie Village pool. When we lived in Gladstone, we took our kid to the Gladstone pool. We've done all of that.
Keller! You love it?
But I don't know of anybody just in our neighborhood where we can just hop over and say, hey, can we jump in your pool because it's blazing hot. In California, I did, so I do miss that. Now, speaking of the weather, it leads us to our next thing. In the heat, it's not really super hard to get around. When it gets really cold, it is hard to get yourself around. So transportation is hard here.
Go!
Especially when it starts dropping below 30, starts dropping below freezing, and there's a lot of rain here, at least compared to California. There's a ton of rain. So when it gets really cold and it rains or snows, then you have to allow extra time to get to where you want to go. You have to allow extra time to avoid slipping and sliding on the dry ice. You have to allow extra time for your car to thaw. I remember, man, there was a nightmare situation that I had. So I'm still a student trying to get my PhD, and one of my last classes that I had to go attend, I had to be there at 8:00 a.m. in the morning. And I remember I was going to my car. It was about 7:30. It takes me about 20 minutes to get to my school. And so I get in my car, I start it, and I cannot get the ice off of my windshield. It is completely frozen solid, maybe about 1/4 of an inch thick of just water on my windshield. And I had to wait for that thing to thaw. It took me about 30 minutes to thaw it. I did not want to pour hot water over it because I heard that that's a good way to crack your windshield. That is a huge pain. You're gonna want a lot extra. You're gonna want to allot extra time, especially when it gets super cold, to get to a place because you're gonna have to thaw your car. You're gonna have to drive slower. Everybody drives slower here, and rightfully so, especially when there's snow on the ground. If you need to shovel your driveway, you need a lot extra time to go out there in the freezing cold to shovel your driveway to make sure everything's clear so that when you back out, so that you can get your car out of your driveway. All of those things I never had to deal with in California, and you're gonna want to think about it too. Now, with the hot and the cold, the roads here are in a lot rougher shape than they are in California. When it stays a consistent, 65, 75 degrees, the roads don't go under a lot of stress. But from what I read and what I see and experience, when it gets super cold, it has snow on the ground, and then it gets super hot, the asphalt and the concrete contracts and expands and contracts and expands and does all that kind of stuff, and that makes the roads a nightmare. I was driving out, I live in a hilly area. I was driving out, and at the very bottom of a hill, I hit a pothole super hard. My bumper came off, not all the way, but at least loose enough that I had to repair it, and it's just super annoying. My tire right now, I have to go get it changed because I think just driving in the potholes, driving in this area, I think that it's just really hard on the tires. Unfortunately, they don't last as long as they do here in California. Both of my cars, okay, it's the same cars that I drove in California. Both of my cars, they've had tire issues all the time here. And I never had to deal with that in California because everything, again, 65 and sunny, 75 and sunny. At worst, it gets to 100, right? At coldest, it gets to 40. That's not a huge temperature fluctuation, but here, the temperature can fluctuate and it can make getting around a nightmare. So you're gonna want to allot extra time. You're gonna want to allot these extra routines to make sure that you can get to where you want to go safely. I mentioned the potholes, I mentioned all this stuff, and the potholes wouldn't be so bad if they would just repair them on time. The city, especially I live in Kansas City, Missouri proper, has a hard time repairing potholes in a timely manner. Unfortunately, I think they're getting better at it. I see construction all the time, but you know what? When you see construction all the time, what does that mean? It's going to slow you down. It's going to slow down your commute. Right now, there's a freeway called the 71 freeway that has a ton of construction on it right now. 35 freeway has a lot of construction on it right now. A lot of these inner roads, I can't tell you, one of these times I'll go out, try to get out of my neighborhood, and it'll be a big detour sign. Say, hey, go around because we're doing construction here. We're doing construction here. Now, you know, I love the construction workers. They're doing a great job. Thank you for making Kansas City a great place to live. But it is annoying when you do have to get around, especially with my job. I have to drive here and there and everywhere. When you have to get around and you always have to dodge construction, you have to dodge these things. Now, with the infrastructure, one of the things I want to mention, water bills for me, I think are really high. When I used to live in Southern California, water bills would be about $40 to $50. Now on average, water bills are like $100. And this was with all the things that we used to do in California, watering our plants, taking showers, we don't really take baths that much anymore. The kids are grown up enough that they can shower now, so it uses less water. We're not water wasters. Obviously, we consume water like a normal family, but $100 for a water bill, I think it's kind of high. And from what I hear, it is because the infrastructure and the water infrastructure here, it seems like, from what I hear, is really old and has not been upgraded in a long time, and so it is very, very inefficient. Let me tell you about our energy company. It's called Evergy with a V, Evergy. And honestly, I have ongoing feud with Evergy because one time they shut off our power, and they shut it off for about 12 hours, and my kids were trying to go to bed. This was when I think either my second son had not yet been born or was just born, and it was right in the middle of those heat waves, and we didn't have any AC because we didn't have any power. And all they really needed to do was to push in this one part of the meter and just kind of click it in, but they took 12 hours and no technician came out and serviced us. And all they had to do was to put in that one little meter, and we would have been good to go. And so, you know what? Eventually, I went out there and I did it myself.
Fine. I'll do it myself.
Because my kids, it was getting to about 9:30, 10, and for toddlers, that's really late. So I went out there, I pushed it in, power came back on, but then Evergy came out there and they fined me $100 for just pushing that simple thing in. Now I get it, you know, they have procedures of how to do things, and they don't want you electrocuting themselves and them being liable, and I understand all that. No complaint against that, but you know, when my kids are unable to sleep and it's almost 10 o'clock at night, I've got to do something as a father to take care of my family, and it took so long for Evergy to respond to our service calls. Also included in infrastructure and utilities and services, I've shown you before that we finally got a recycle bin. But in California, I had 3 bins, okay? I had a trash bin, I had a recycle bin, and I had a greens bin. Basically anything that was mulch or anything that was organic leftover. We had 3 of them, and they would get picked up consistently all the time. But here in Kansas City, we have that one recycle bin, and the first time that we got that recycle bin, we put trash into it because, you know, I did not read the instructions of only recycle. We put trash into it, and the guy came, I saw him from the window, he opened it up, saw that it was trash, closed it, and left. Didn't take our trash, didn't take our recycle. We had to hold it for another week. I had to rebag it. There were maggots. It was disgusting. It was really, really gross. Now, again, my fault for not reading it. I'm not going to blame it on the KCMO trash people, but one of the things that you're going to have to know is that if you choose to live in Kansas City, Missouri proper, some of our utilities, some of our systems are not the best. The trash was super efficient where I came from in Southern California. It was easy in LA. They would just come every Tuesday or Thursday, I forget. It was one of those days, but they would come, they would have their truck, they would dump it, they would move on. Now, when I lived in Gladstone, the trash was a lot better. The trash pickup was on Wednesdays and they would come pretty consistently. But here, I mean, it's kind of hodgepodge. We get trash picked up sometimes on Fridays. That's our trash day. Sometimes they miss. Sometimes they get it on Saturday. One time we even had to wait until Monday. It's kind of hit and miss. So the utilities, I would say, they're a lot worse here than where I came from in Los Angeles. And that leads us to the last thing I really miss about Los Angeles, and it's the food. Now check out this comment saying if you can't find the food in KC, then you're not looking. I totally get that. I thank you so much for watching my video and commenting on my video. One of the things I would say though is, I mean, if you have the panoply of food selections that you have in Los Angeles, super good Thai food right down the street, super good sushi right down the street, Korean barbecue right down the street, authentic Mexican tacos right in your backyard, good Indian cuisine all the time, super good pizza right in your neighborhood, and not to mention the king of all Californian foods, In-N-Out Burger. We live 5 minutes away from an In-N-Out Burger, and now we are thousands of miles away from an In-N-Out Burger. So I think that depending on where you come from, you can definitely consider KC as a foodie town. No doubt about it. This person's correct. If you're not looking, if you can't find good food in KC, then you've got to look in different places, because you can definitely find some good food in Kansas City. But if you're coming from Los Angeles, where you have everything literally at your fingertips, you don't have to travel anywhere. Now there's good Chinese food here. There's good ramen here. There's good sushi here, but I have to drive 15, 20, 25 minutes to get it. And sometimes when you're hungry, you don't want to drive that far, right? When it used to be just right in my backyard, I could easily shoot down to In-N-Out, 5 minutes, get in line, get my double, come back home, I'd be gone 15 minutes. But now, if you have to drive 15 minutes, that's 15 minutes one way, waiting for your food, 15 minutes back, that could be 30 minutes, that could be an hour. So if you're moving from a place like a Philadelphia or a New York or a Portland or one of these places that is a known foodie town, then Kansas City is going to have a lot less food selection for you.